Very complex issues. Like Garth, I'm not going to say vote yes or vote no. I'm frankly not 100% sure how I'm going to vote yet. I haven't. But I might end up spoiling my ballot even. But I've seen a preview up close as a volunteer public watchdog for the Canby Corridor planning process. I'm witnessing how problematic that process is and how destructive some of the outcomes are going to be. I wouldn't wish this on anyone, and I have reason to believe that the impacts on Broadway neighborhoods would be even more troublesome. I was at City Hall when former planning director Brent Totterin recommended that there be no residential development on the station site, Marine Drive, because of well-founded concerns that it would encourage speculation in the industrial area that would be economically detrimental for Vancouver. The architect representing the developer gave some weak arguments in favor of the Gateway project, and Councillor Louis put forward a motion to amend the staff recommendations to allow a huge condo tower on the site. I knew then that a backroom deal had been made between the Vision Administration and that developer. Even after the Canada Line opened, this remains one of the most congested and polluted intersections of the city because Marine Drive is a major car commuting route and the principal land use is highway-oriented retail. Yet this administration is packing it with numerous tall condo towers and thousands of parking stalls. Several years ago, I voiced my concerns to a senior planner that this will result in even worse congestion and a threat to public health, especially the young, the elderly, and workers in the area. He agreed, but explained that these decisions were not being made by the planners, but had been foisted on them by the city's sustainability group and the engineering department. Their thinking was that creating an awful bottleneck there would force people to take transit rather than drive. This is true. It's clear to me that this rationale is also being applied at 41st Avenue, but naturally they won't admit it publicly. I expect that they would use a yes vote to create similar choke points along Broadway. So much for this being an anti-congestion tax. It may be for Surrey, but for Vancouver, it is anything but. A couple years later, I was at City Hall again when Canby Corridor Phase 2 policy was considered. Totterin explained that on the three corners opposite Oak Ridge Center, building heights up to 12 stories could be considered. Owners of those sites called for greater heights, and Louis asked why the 12-story limit. Totterin explained that due to the particulars of these sites and surroundings, this was the most that could be supported on the basis of urban design and livability. When pressed by Louis, Totterin finally relented and pleaded for no more than 15 stories. This was upsetting to me because senior planners had already assured the RPSC Visions Committee that they would not agree to more than 12 stories. But 12 was not good enough for Louis, and he put through an amendment that during Phase 3 planning, which is scheduled to begin this spring, greater heights would be considered on these sites. I don't think they'll stop at 15. Totterin now had two strikes against him, and after he privately opposed extending the STIR program because it offered developers too much in return for too little, he was sacked without warning and without cause. But the worst travesty is the city-enabled destruction of Marine Gardens, the best designed and best functioning low-cost family rental complex in Vancouver. This, more than any other factor, is making it impossible for me to justify voting yes. I urge you to check out the 5-minute video about Marine Gardens. You can get the link on City Hall Watch site. A month or two after Totterin's firing, I bumped into him at an open house to promote doubling the heights and densities that had been approved in 2007 to guide redevelopment of the Oak Ridge Center. And from comments he made, it was clear to me he didn't agree with what was being proposed. Neither did the vast majority of area residents, most of whom had supported the 2007 policy. But the new policy was approved by the administration, justified in large part by, quote, public benefits, including replacing the existing library and community center, a new park, and lots of affordable, in quotes, housing.
Wait a minute.
Okay, I'm just about there. I may go over by a few seconds. The developer is one of the Vision Administration's most generous longtime patrons, and on close scrutiny, these benefits are less than advertised. The library and community center would have to be demolished anyway to enable the redevelopment plans. The park is required under a previous covenant, yet was discarded for a rooftop park that will certainly function as a death trap for untold numbers of migratory birds. As for affordability, a large number of the rental units will be at market rates or only slightly below, not the 20% social housing one would expect on a site of this size and density. We were also promised that the station would be expanded to handle the additional riders at a cost of about $10 million, but this was later downgraded to superficial improvements costing a few $100,000. As for affordability, according to my estimates, community amenity contributions from Phase 2 development, which includes most of Canby Street and adjacent arterials, will fund below-market units equal to no more than about 6 or 7% of all new housing. This despite the fact that up and down the corridor, rezonings are routinely being approved for greater density and height than is stated in the policy, with windfall profits from property sales. One more sentence here. These Canby corridor rezonings are huge giveaways justified by transit investment because proceeds from development around Broadway would be used to help fund a subway. We can expect little, if any, public amenities or genuine social housing to serve population growth. This is not sustainable development, and towers are not green. Thank you.